Welcome back to the Panic Room, everyone, and to a 4.5 book review today. I know I usually do 3, but we actually have 4.5 books to talk about today, and they run the gamut. We're going to talk about everything from sci-fi to novellas to even, yes, a little politics. Stick around. So guys, let's start off with a really positive note. Gareth Howe, over at Book Songs and Other Magic, he sent me his books. Yes, 2 of them. His poetry book, which we're not going to talk about today, you guys know in my brain poetry is separate, and his short story collection, which is 10 Tales of Transformation. This was awesome. It was. And you're talking to a girl that doesn't read a whole lot of sci-fi. This was great fun. This was so wholesome, almost. There's a lot of difference here in these stories. And you guys know, if you've been around for 12 seconds, that I absolutely love short story collections, especially when they're different. There is enough difference in each story to really pull you in, but there is an underlying connection between all of them. You know, you're dealing with like aliens and sci-fi stuff and other dimensions and stuff like that. I laughed at this book. There is one story in here about an alien rock group that was funny as hell. I loved it. Just the interactions. Gareth describes like facial features and stuff superbly in that story in particular. However, I do want to mention that this is not all just like great fun. There is a story in here about essentially the Grim Reaper coming to visit this man, and I'm not going to go any further than that. However, you guys know I like that like big picture kind of questions. I love to read about that kind of shit, and I really enjoyed Gareth's take on it because it was deep, but it wasn't like in your face preachy. And I think that's hard to do a lot of times when you're dealing with like big picture questions. I really loved that. And there is a story in here about a person getting taken up into a spaceship. I mean, look, you see, this will make sense if you read it, like being taken up into this big hat. But the aliens have this like obsession, and I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's funny as hell the way he executes it. It's so good. Oh my gosh, like I want to tell you so bad. It's just funny. Just the whole interaction is funny because they have this one obsession and the person who gets taken up doesn't understand. It's real good. It's real good. So, and one thing I will say is that if you're not a big sci-fi person, if you're like turned off about the fact like, oh, I'm not going to understand like aliens and science. No, this is so approachable. It's so readable. So readable. Even if you're not like a big like Star Trek or Star Wars or what have you fan, you know, if you're not from Romulac, isn't that a thing? Isn't Romulac a thing? I know I've heard that word. Comment down below, tell me, what is Romulac? If you're not into that, but you like sci-fi, you're gonna love this. Honestly, I would go so far as to say wholesome. Like, this was a book that I came away from like, wow, that was really nice. So, 10 Tales of Transformation by our very own Gareth. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about a book that I've been meaning to talk about for ages, and it is called The Pure World Comes. And this author, Rami, is it Ungar? I'm probably going to say your last name terribly wrong, but Rami, he messaged me on Instagram, wanted to send me his books. Yes, I have another one by him, but I read The Pure World Comes first, just because I thought that title was cool, and boy did it not disappoint. So you have this world. It's like if Gothic horror met, I don't know, Frankenstein? Not really. Like experiments, okay? But kind of like otherworldly sort of stuff. It's so hard to nail down. Rami marries these things beautifully because you really have this like old world Gothic lit kind of setting. And I know before you go anywhere, you're like, oh, that's so boring. It's not. The first part of the book is, you know, a slower build, but you need that because you need to find out about your main character, Shirley. You need her, like, personality traits. You need to find out about the other people in this house that she winds up in. You know, so the first part of the book, you know, the setting and whatnot, that is necessary. And then in the second half, she gets to this house. So through a series of unfortunate events, she winds up at this house, you know, because she's a maid. And she didn't stay a maid for long, but she winds up at this house where this, like, scientist guy is living, right? And when you find out what's going down with the scientist, it's like, oh, holy shit, because it's nothing like what you would think would come out of a Gothic novel, okay? It's just not, at least in my personal opinion. I thought it was really unique. And I was really impressed with how well the two sides of this book were married together, because you have like this Gothic novel, you know, with like petticoats and, I don't know, 1800s bullshit, and then you have this like really out there scientific, like experiment thing happening, and they just blend so well. Like, it's so believable, to use that term loosely. It's really believable. It doesn't feel forced at all. It just seems like, wow, this is what's happening in this house. If you dig on like old haunted house, like entity kind of things, there's some of that in here for you. But really, I want to drive home the point of, I was so impressed about how these different elements played well together. Because, you know, I didn't understand the title until after I read it, but I was really impressed when I got to the end and I was like, wow, that flowed so well. Because when you find out what's going down in the house, it's so far removed from a lot of what I know of like Gothic horror. And yet it was beautifully done. So, highly recommend The Pure World Comes. All right, let's do the 0.5 book, shall we? So this is like a little novella, and Jay over at The World According to Jay, he messaged me and was like, hey, would you like to read this? Because I'm pretty sure he's probably friends with the author. Jay has so many like really awesome indie horror friends. So he sent me Candles, Bullets, and Dead Skin by Louis Stephenson. And I had not heard of this, but isn't that a kick-ass title? Candles, Bullets, and Dead Skin. And again, it's super, super short, so I can't really give you a ton. However, if you dig on indie horror novellas, I really don't think you're gonna go wrong here, because you have a lot of different styles here. Let me show you. I know it's on Kindle, so take that for what it is, but let me show you what I'm talking about. So you have some longer content in here, you know, like short stories, but then you have shorter stuff as well. Almost like, I don't want to say poems. I mean, kind of poems, they're kind of prosy, but like here, sorry about the glare, guys. Here is Pumpkin Burns. So it's like a poem kind of, sort of, but then you go straight into The Red Candle, which is, you know, a short story. I like that. I like that variation. And you get a lot of that here. It is definitely a horror story. You got some blood, you got some guts, you got some gore, so keep that in mind. But, you know, there's a lot here. Just to kind of give you some of my favorites, because again, I can't give you a ton. You know, there's a lot of, you know, variation of content here. Some of it is super short, and I don't want to ruin anything for you. So I will tell you that I absolutely loved Itch. I loved Pumpkin Burns, and actually I liked The Red Candle too, but I have to say Pumpkin Burns was kind of cool. That's probably my poetry side talking. Now, besides Pumpkin Burns, Itch is probably the one that I found the grossest and hence the best. Anything that has to do with skin stuff is usually a really good way to like give me the heebie-jeebies. Like, I just, it's so gross. But it was good. It was well done. I liked it. But I have to say, for me, the best one in the bunch was probably Itch. I liked all of it though. I think overall it's a good little collection. And again, I'm going to say I really like the variation of the types of stories and things that were in the collection. So, Candles, Bullets, and Dead Skin. Still a kick-ass title. Alright guys, so this last book is a little bit hard for me to talk about. I was contacted by Voices from the Mausoleum, who is an incredible YouTube channel. You guys should definitely check her out. She is amazing, just her whole aesthetic is wonderful, but I'm here to tell you that she's actually a really good person too. And she is involved with this anthology that is probably going to be out by the time you see this video, called Livestock. And this anthology was put together after the decision of Roe versus Wade from the Supreme Court. I'm not going to go any farther than that. I'm not here to talk about my feelings on that. What I am here to talk about is that I think it is incredibly important to read books like this. This book was put together by women who feel very strongly about an opinion, and that in and of itself, whether you agree with that opinion or not, is incredibly important to support. We have to, it is a necessity to life, to literature at large, to have the freedom to write things like this, to channel your feelings about a topic, be it political or what have you, into a story. We need this freedom. Whether you agree with what is being written or the topic it's being written about, we need to have this freedom. That's why I wanted to mention this book. Whether you agree or not, I would encourage you to at least give it a shot, because I think that, you know, no matter what side of that argument you fall on, I think you are going to be able to see that the creative outlet that writing is, the therapy that you get from this creative process is important. The voice that is put out there, regardless if you want to listen to it or not, is important. If you don't like one, you don't have to listen to it, you don't have to read it. But I personally encourage you to do that, because I think it makes you a better person. I think it makes you a more well-rounded individual if you choose to pick up a book that maybe you don't agree with. You know, maybe it's from a point of view that you don't really dig on. I really encourage you to maybe venture down that path if you never have. You know, open your mind up. Don't get mad. Don't go into it with anger. Open your mind up and read about these experiences. Read, you know, through the eyes of the person who wrote it and see what you glean from it. If you come out on the other side and you haven't changed your mind, okay, cool. I guarantee you, though, that it's going to change you in some capacity, because to me, when you see these different lives, these things that you are never going to have enough time to live, you know, it makes you understand that the world is so much more than just what's between your ears. And that's why I think a book like Livestock is so important. You know, I feel like I don't need to review the book, so to speak, but there are some amazing stories in here. There are some stories in this book that I think really will speak to people on both sides. And I really think that they can be enjoyed by people on both sides. I really think that by and large, if you pick this up and read it, you're going to understand where the women who wrote this are coming from. And that's the important part. That is what is essential to creative life, is that you make this space for everyone to exist. I know this is like super rambly, and I'm sorry, it's because I don't talk about this kind of shit a lot. But I guess to wrap that up, what I'm saying is that what matters is the fact that you understand that the person speaking is a person, okay? To me, that's what matters. And that is why books like Livestock are important. That is why books that, you know, challenge things are important. And if you are the type of person that doesn't want to be challenged by these things, that you are comfortable living in the life that you have made, into the rules and the opinions that you have, that's fine. I respect that. It's tough as hell to read about somebody else's opinions and to challenge your own stuff. I get it. Not everybody wants to do it. But if you are brave enough, I highly encourage you to do it, because it's going to make you a better person when you can step outside of yourself and see through another person's eyes. And you're not going to get better than a book to do that. It's going to change you, and it's going to open up your mind, to me. So I'm going to stop here because I'm getting super rambly, but yeah, Livestock. All right, guys, thank you for hanging out for this weird, ranty review slash I don't even know what kind of video. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you as a person. I probably don't say that enough, but in case nobody's told you today, you do matter. So if you like this, please hit like, hit subscribe. It would really help me out. And until next time, bye for now.